Melissa, do you want to take it from here while I do breakout rooms?
You have a poll everywhere that's linked to your account.
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to the best day of the workshop, the last day. Today we're going to be telling you about the checkout process and other things that you can expect as the workshop comes to a close. And of course, we're going to inform you of the ways that we will continue to support you even though the workshop will no longer be active. And then of course, we're going to give you time to work on your modules today too. Oh, Melissa said it's the saddest day. I agree. It is pretty bittersweet, but it's a lot of hard work for everybody, and I'm sure we could all appreciate the break from the grind. So I am recording. Here we go. Session number 1, last day. So I did collect the majority of the module titles from people, but there are a few who I still don't know the title of your module. And the reason I ask for this, it just makes it easier for me to track your progress and help you even after the conclusion of the workshop. Because keep in mind, I see every module that was ever created, and it's really hard for me to determine which one belongs with what group. So yeah, just if you're any of these groups, please just drop the title. Otherwise, I'll just hunt you down.
You got 2 out of 3 already.
I know, I'm doing pretty good. So, Astor Martin group. Okay, I'll follow up with them. So, here's the plan for today. We're going to tell you how you can stay in touch with us after the conclusion of the workshop, things you can expect in the process that we go to sort of get you checked out, graduated from the workshop, from the fellowship. We also have in mind to do a Twitter live Q&A, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that later. And then after we complete those 3 agenda items, we're going to give you the opportunity to either work in your partner groups if you would prefer that, or you could stay in the main room and listen to these talks. So based on your feedback we received, thank you, Astor. So based on the feedback that we received from you yesterday, we sort of picked these 2 popular topics to talk about in further detail for you. And then after that, of course, you have your you'll have partner work time, and we'll begin session 2 by sharing in your content groups as we typically do. So here we go, our checking in question today. What was your favorite part or aspect of the workshop? We already know who your favorite person is, so let's talk about the workshop. And I will pull up our responses. I can appreciate the person who said building a community, and I'm glad you said that because that's definitely one of our goals. And I agree, we did get to meet some Some definitely amazing people that we otherwise never would have met. Okay, it seems like we did a pretty good job pairing people up.
Ooh, someone said constructive alignment. I was waiting for it.
Feel like that's a love-hate relationship, maybe.
That's fair. To be fair, I wasn't expecting anyone to say it genuinely. So
I definitely agree with this last one. Finding out other people's interests like books and movies. I've definitely received some good recommendations from these workshops. And it's easier to find friends, like especially once like the nerds start coming out of the woodwork. I'm like, oh, there's my people. I see you. All right, well, that's a lot of good responses, and it's kind of been slowing down. I'm going to exit out of that.
Jenny, would you like me to share now?
Yeah.
Oh. All right, so we have a lot of links in these slides for you to kind of help you as you're moving forward without the kind of daily structure that we've provided. So one thing that Jenny wanted to make sure you had access to, it's linked in the slides, but of course it's also located in your folder itself, is the assigned points of contact. And so here's where Jenny's going to put in your module name, and then your technical education and content guides, as well as their names and email addresses. So if you forget who it is that you're kind of designated to reach out to, of course, you can always reach out to any of us, but this is kind of your assigned point person. The next thing we wanted to talk to you about is the checkout process. So we've made a checkout to-do list for you. And it's one of those types of documents that you have to make a copy in order to open it. So you can make a copy for yourself. If you want to save it to your own drive, you can, let's see, click here to move, and then you can move it wherever in your drive that you want. So it's saved within your own Google Drive. Or you can, of course, save it in your folder, your team folder, if you want. So they're the tasks here are on the left, and the due dates are on the right. It does look like a very long list, but a lot of them kind of go together. So IRB approval, I'm happy to announce we have our first IRB approval. Go Mississippi State and Varun, you got an approval very quickly, which was nice. Some of you, I know it will take a lot longer, and we'll work on that together. Then, of course, finalizing the module. So we are asking you to submit by August 18th, because if we work backwards, then we will be able to give it to you, get you feedback. Where does it talk about feedback? So you'll get feedback, and then you'll be able to revise and release it by September 29th. So an August 18th date means that we'll have enough time to revise, to give you that feedback, to review, to give you the feedback, and then you'll have enough time to revise for a September 29th release date. So if you're planning on using this in your course before September 29th, you want to aim to submit it to us before August 18th. If you are planning to teach it later in the semester, you have a little more kind of wiggle room on your due date of the 18th. The next thing, and Jenny mentioned this real quick, and we're going to talk about it more in just a minute, is Twitter videos. So we're hoping that you will send a 1 to 2 minute video to Jenny by August 18th. So at the same time as you finalize your module. We just need one video per module. So you and your partner can kind of, as you're divvying up tasks, decide who might do that. The idea is it's meant to be like your elevator speech. What would you say if you only had 2 minutes with someone to hook them into your module? And we're going to use those in a Twitter chat. And so, Jenny, I see that there's no link to the doodle for the Twitter chat. Is that something you could put in there today?
Yeah, I'll add it there, and it's also in the slides today. So it does exist. I just
Okay.
didn't follow.
Yeah. So then the Twitter live, and again, we'll discuss this in a minute, will be the week of September 13th. And then you're going to revise your module based on the feedback you get. And then once we give you final approval, you'll release it. Once you've released it, then your kind of work on the project is mostly done so that's the deliverable that's attached to the stipend. And so the forms to fill, you'll coordinate with Jenny then. She'll actually, when she says, go ahead and release, she'll tell you what to do with the forms again. But we'll need a certification form and then your W-9 in order to get to process the payment for your stipend. And then so some of the next things have to do with the data that we want to collect. So this is dependent upon if we're going to be collecting data in your classes, which will be the case for most of you. So we showed you at the beginning of the workshop last week all of the amazing results that we're having so far that we're finding in student self-reported learning gains. And having so many modules on so many different topics, each student assessment of learning gains survey has to be tailored specifically to your module. So here, Jenny gives you an example of what the SALG looks like for the Beaubassin module. And then she asks you to provide a list of concepts, an example of what the skills looks like, and asks you to provide a list of skills for your module so that she can create the SALG specifically for your module. And then we also ask you to share your implementation dates. That helps us keep track of which modules are being used when, but it also helps us to let you know, to give you more directions about when to administer the SALG. And kind of, we have language for you to put in an email to your students or that you could read to them if you're face-to-face in class. So all of that information will kind of come as soon as you're ready to publish your module. Then the collection of the SALG data is before you implement your module. We hope that you'll implement it fall or spring. Of course, we always understand things happen. Department heads can change your schedule with no warning, depending on who your department head is. So of course we understand, but we're hoping that you'll implement your module in the fall or spring. And then we want to collect, of course, the post-survey data as soon as you're done collecting your module. And then the instructor survey and interview will happen once you're done implementing your module. I'll just contact you to find a time that works for both of us to have a little chat. I really like those chats because it's an opportunity for me to catch up with you after a long time and to just hear how things went. So it's kind of a nice touching in point. That's a lot of steps. What questions do you have for me? Which folder are you asking, Martin? Which folder is this checkout to-do list in?
Yes, so I refreshed and I don't seem to, is it in the, supposed to be in the main folder?
Yeah, so we didn't put it in the main folder because we wanted you to have to make a copy of it. And if we put it in the main folder, then you could edit it yourself. But I think Alexander put the link in the chat for you.
Okay.
So what you might want to do is you might want to star it. So then it'll go to your starred documents in in your own Google Drive. Or you might want to move it to a place where you keep your materials in HydroLearn. Or you might just want to print it right away.
I see it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, Ian. Great question. We do need IRB approval before we can run the student surveys. And you can use the module without collecting student data. We would really like to collect your student data. And so if you're thinking that IRB approval will take a long time or that you won't be able to get it, I'd rather talk one-on-one before just kind of making a blanket statement about not collecting data, if that's fair. Thanks. All right. If you have questions on this as we go along, feel free to pull me back to it. All right, so we have been, I'll start with a full disclaimer that none of us HydroLearn co-PIs. Thanks, Alfonso, for that question. Please send your university's IRB response to me. And in fact, if you want to copy me on any correspondence with them, I'm pretty quick to answer their questions that they may have. I've answered a lot of these.
But with Alfonso being at Utah State, I should probably coordinate that because we've already got IRB approval for Belize's module and for some of our work. So we should just add Alfonso to that.
Actually, excellent point. Yes, thank you, Dave. Alfonso, you're in a unique and privileged situation in that you're at Utah State, who already has a reliance agreement with ULL's IRB. So you actually have it really easy. Thanks for that reminder, Dave. So full disclaimer, none of us HydroLearn co-PIs, I don't think, would consider ourselves particularly Twitter proficient. I don't even know if there's a term for that. Twitty? I don't know. So what we are, but we have been kind of playing around with it and learning more about it. And instead of, you'll remember when we initially advertised for the hackathon, we said that there would be 4 post-meeting workshops where we would, and the purpose of those last year was for each pair of fellows to share about their module with the group. But one of our goals is with those workshops was for you all to learn about one another's modules, but also we then clipped the videos, the recordings, and posted them, but clipped, they were mostly about 20 minutes long, which meant they didn't get a lot of viewers, which meant they didn't have that kind of advertising that we were hoping that they would have. So they really only met those workshops really only met one of our goals. So this year we're kind of changing it up. We have decided to do a live Twitter chat. And so the way a live Twitter chat works is that you kind of tell the Twitter world, the Twitterverse, that you're going to be talking about this thing with this person at this time. And so then people can join in and they use a designated hashtag and they can kind of tweet and retweet each other in one conversation. And you can follow the conversation because it's a hashtag and it's not a delayed conversation the way Twitter often is, because you're not responding whenever you can, but you're responding right there because you know the author is live. Aster, I will talk with you separately about your case. So what we want to do with this live Twitter chat is to host a series of chat sessions where we would spotlight your module, each of your modules, for about 20 minutes. And so we would do a 1-hour block with 3 spotlights. And so we'll do that, whatever, we have 10 modules, so 3 times plus 20 minutes. And so we're going to ask you to maybe come with a few prepared questions that we could pose to the group, pose to the Twitterverse. Let's see. And then we'll have kind of a Q&A. But what we really want to do is to kind of, or one thing we want to do is have a 1 to 2 minute kind of quick snippet marketing type promotional video that kind of advertises, that kind of elevator speech that is kind of a teaser to get people interested in coming to your Twitter chat and to join the Q&A and to learn more about your module. So before I open it for questions, is there anybody who has more knowledge about Twitter than me who would like to chime in with Twitter chats they've participated in the past or how this has gone in the past? No, huh? All right, then what questions might you have?
So will each, I've never done one of these live Twitter things, but I do use Twitter quite often, probably to my own detriment at this point, actually. But will each module have its own hashtag, or will we have one hashtag we use the whole time? And then are there plans to promote it beforehand? Like, are there going to be regular tweets at peak Twitter usage times that we can all retweet and help promote as well?
Both of those are ideas that we had not thought about, and they are excellent ideas. So Jenny, I hope you're taking notes. And also please note that when we're planning this, we're going to email Nate our ideas and see if he has any additionals for us.
There's at least 2 or 3 other people on here that I know from Twitter that use Twitter a lot more than me. So maybe not just me.
Excellent. Yeah. So Alyssa, one thing that we're hoping is that those of you who are on Twitter will publicize it and help us kind of get the word out so that we're not just talking to each other. Because like I said, if we were going to do that, we could just have another workshop and meet together and present, but we want to get the word out and build that community. Hi, Martin, I see your hand up.
Yeah, my question is, so we are supposed to fill out the doodle poll until August 18th, but the dates are in July that we are supposed to fill out. So I'm a little bit confused. When is this Twitter live happening? Is it next year in July?
Great question. So I'm guessing that's a snafu. And I see Jenny working, so she will correct it shortly. So I think it is, we decided the week of September 13th, because we're hoping that some of your modules may be up and live by then. And so people who are interested might click to hear about them. We know not all of the modules will be up, published, and live by then. But we didn't want to wait till too late in the semester, because then it's harder for faculty to adopt something, right? As you go further into the semester, you're kind of locked into your set of actions or your instructional decisions. Great question, Alex. So I just had to, one of the journals that we have in Math Ed does this. They don't do the Twitter chat, but they ask you to create a 1 to 2 minute professional video. So what I will do is I'll send you the directions that their marketing director sent to me, which were helpful-ish. And think of it, remember, maybe it was day 2 or day 3, we did that like Pekakucha, where you had each person had 60 seconds, one slide to kind of share about their module. I think kind of think about it in the same way. You might have a slide with some different images, some different text, maybe even 2 or 3 slides, and you just go through them kind of rapidly with a little bit less on it. The idea is just to hook someone in. We should have examples for you before then, because what we're asking our fellows from cohort 1 to do from I guess cohort 2, you're technically cohort 3. For what our fellows from last summer, we're asking them to do a Twitter live chat, I think the week of August 9th. So hopefully some of them will volunteer, and then you can see those as kind of examples. Martin, is your hand up from before, or is it up again?
From before, sorry.
Oh, okay, not a problem. I just didn't want to miss you. Applications you might use. Honestly, when I did my video for the journal article I have coming out next month, I used Zoom because it records my face, it can record my screen. I use Zoom because it has like the low light feature and it has the like touch up my appearance, so I didn't have to do my makeup. So I use the Zoom instead of they suggested QuickTime, but I use Zoom. Yeah. Other questions? So an interesting thing, this makes me feel a little out of my own comfort zone. And I'm reminded of a book that I was reading that talked about how when we push ourselves out of our own comfort zone, that's when we form new synapses in our brain, we build new neural pathways. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, then maybe that's a sign that you are building some new neural pathways in your brain. So in order to do this, Jenny, I think that date is wrong. We would like you to send us a 1 to 2 minute video by August 18th. And that's one video per module, so per team. Jenny, does it need to be an MP4? Could it be like a YouTube link or something else?
Maybe it could be a YouTube link. And again, I'm Twitter illiterate, so I'm just. So yeah, maybe a YouTube link could work too.
So we're all developing new neural pathways as we go through this. So we're definitely going to use the hashtag HydraLearn, but I think Nate has a very good question about individual hashtags for the modules, and I think that would probably make sense. We also want to invite you to attend the Twitter session of our previous cohort of fellows, which will be the week of August 9th, and then yours is the week of the 13th. So one thing to talk about with your partner today is, does at least one of you have a Twitter account that you could use to answer questions and engage in this? If no one has a Twitter account and you are vehemently opposed to Twitter, then just talk to one of us during your time. Thanks, Jenny, for fixing the doodle. Any other questions or comments about the live Twitter sessions? All right, I'll assume that if you do, we'll come back to them. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, Jenny, have you created the breakout rooms such that they could break out for the tech talk and collaboration, or is it in the main room where those will be?
So the main room is where those will happen. I just have partner rooms right now. That makes sense.
Okay. So I feel like maybe if we were going to do that, we probably could have just done it the normal way, but I feel like I didn't communicate that well. Okay, so what we'd like you to do is to kind of complete this survey of beliefs. We know that if you did HydraLearn 101, this is going to look very familiar to you because it was at the beginning of HydraLearn 101. But actually what we found last year is that the fellows' beliefs shifted from before the workshop to after. And so kind of just looking to see how things have shifted or not shifted for you. During your partner time, it would probably make sense to talk about this kind of timeline for deliverables and kind of break up tasks and see what you can do. It also would make sense to talk about if you want to try to submit earlier than the 18th, or also if the 18th is really not going to work for you and you want to set a different deadline for yourselves, you need to, email or talk to us about that so that we make sure we understand where your due date is coming in and why that is. And then here is the poll that Jenny's put in there, which is the poll, the doodle poll for the Twitter chat.
And I would like to point out that as you fill that doodle poll, provide the title of your module rather than your name.
Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, so you'll probably want to do that Twitter poll, that doodle poll with your partners once you've discussed who might have the Twitter presence. So we're gonna break here, and you have choice. So you can either stay in the main room, and we're gonna have some tech tips, or you can go into your partner room and work with your partner. And then when the tech tips conversation is done, we'll broadcast a message and we'll let you know in 5 minutes, we'll have a collaboration conversation in the main room. And if you want to come back to the main room for the collaboration conversation, you just click the leave room button or leave breakout room, the blue button in the bottom corner, and you can come back into the main room for the collaboration conversation. So you kind of have multiple pathways. You could stay for the tech tips and the collaboration conversation and then go work in your partner room. You could stay for tech tips, skip collaboration. You could skip tech tips and come back for collaboration, or you can skip both the collaboration and tech tips. So you have different options of how you want to do this. The breakout rooms are open. No, they're not open. I will open them here in just a second. So when I open the breakout rooms, Jenny, I might have mucked that up.
Yeah, that's not right. They were definitely right.
All right,
Yeah,
so
something
Jenny will, is it correct? Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
I think I need you to open them since you created them.
Now some of them have disappeared.
Yeah,
It's the
okay,
issue.
that's my fault. I apologize. So while Jenny is fixing my error, are there any questions about, you can see the tech talk topics. Wow, Jenny, thank you for
You're
that
welcome.
alliterative nightmare. So are there any questions about how this kind of choose your own adventure type thing is going to go? All right, so these are the topics for the tech talk. And then the collaboration time is just a space to come together for people to talk about projects or ideas that they might be interested in. And Imad will really be facilitating that conversation with a goal, because of course he and Dave are really experienced with kind of winning these big grants, but also in kind of fostering collaborations. But their role will be, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Imad, but I think that the goal of that conversation is just to explore any and provide time and space for any collaboration ideas that you all might have or that you all might want to explore together. And then the last thing is we do have a second session this afternoon. So we will be here and sharing in your content groups, kind of your last time with them. I feel like the content groups are kind of like a emotional support group. So it'll be nice to meet back here for the last hour to say, we'll say goodbye to each other all together and then in the content groups. All right, Jenny, are those breakout rooms open?
They are ready and I'm going to open them.
All right, so Jenny opened the rooms and none of you are assigned to a room, but each room is named. So when you click on breakout rooms, if your Zoom is updated, which is, you know, that all depends on your computer and your IT and how that goes, you should be able to click yourself into whatever room you want to go to. So go for it. You can stay here for the tech tips or you can go ahead and join your room. All right, Jenny, I will hand the screen over to you. Also, if there's anyone who wants to go into a small group room, but you don't have that functionality, let me know and I can help you.
So, Melissa, I'm sorry, the collaboration room starts now also, or after we finish this?
So the collaboration is after tech tips.
Okay.
Okay, so based on some of the questions that we received in that poll everywhere yesterday, I picked some of the recurring themes out to just provide a few more details about them. And first, I want to point out that all of these hyperlinks navigate you to somewhere in HydroLearn 101 that tells you in greater detail everything you ever want to know about any of these topics. So these resources are available for you already. And there's actually a way that you can search the using HydroLearn why and how. So HydroLearn 101, you can search in here. If you have a question about equations, you're not sure where it is, you type in the search box equations and it'll pop up. But the point is that you have to be in edX for this to work. I mean, obviously you don't have 101 in your studio, but just to be very clear, you go to the course as if you were, the way you did when you took HydroLearn 101. And then you'll be able to search.
Jenny, I don't know how many people you're expecting to stay for tech tips, but we only got 3 non-team. Everybody else is in their breakout groups. You might just keep that in mind as you're talking.
Okay, sure. I guess we can make it more of a discussion then as we go along.
I'm actually going to jump into one of the breakout groups because I know one of the breakout groups is actually asking this question about delimiters.
No, how about that?
I'll go and relay it to them.
Okay. All right, so Ian and Sebnam, it's just us, okay? So since you have me pretty much all to yourself, do you want to ask me questions rather than me teach you things that you probably don't care about?
I was the one asking about the equations. I'm a bit concerned about them. So
okay, so equations. If you want to keep your equation in line, you just use this separate delimiter. So in our previous examples, let me just go here. We use the display, and obviously that brought it down to the next line and centers it. And the inline, we'll just keep it there. But all you have to do is change those delimiters on either end. And if you ever forget, it is all right here in HydroLearn 101, section 2. So inline delimiter, the display, a few examples, resources for an extensive list of mathematical expressions in Greek letters and operators and all sorts of fun things. And there's even some examples here. But that's all you have to do for an inline equation is just change these delimiters. Okay, what else?
Yeah, I'm interested in the student discussion boards.
Student discussion board. All right, now I thoroughly admit that I have not had much experience with these discussion boards. And in fact, I think the last time I used them was when we made HydroLearn 101. But past Jenny typed up some really great stuff. So I really appreciate my past self here. So in HydroLearn 101 in section 2, we have a lot of information about like creating discussions and managing them. And basically there are 2 different types of discussions you can start. So one would be like a course-wide discussion. And those are typically used for like students to discuss with one another if they are facing an issue, like a problem they've come across. And that acts as like an AIM chat box where they can, instantly reply to one another. And they can also create threads there for specific problems. So like saying, I get this, HEC-RAS errors may be a thread. What else? So I'm running so low on creative juice today, but you get the point. And then the other type of discussion is a, let me see, is the content specific one. And this one, obviously you would narrow it down to a category or a subcategory. So if you want them to discuss something in particular during a certain week, you know, you can make it content specific like that.
Okay, and does that mean that when a student writes something on the discussion board, anyone enrolled on that course can see it? Or can we make it private to like just the group of students that I'm teaching in my university module?
Yeah, you can do that too. And that is in cohorts. So let me view this as a learner. So once you have students enrolled in your course, you can assign them to be in what edX calls cohorts. And that information is in here. I'm just waiting for my search box. What, I don't get one? I'm not worthy? Let's make this in. Okay. There it is. So section 3, student experience, student cohort. And you can assign your learners automatically or manually to cohorts. And then you can time to course discussions as well.
Yeah, okay, so all of this information is in the Hydro Learn 101 kind of third section.
Yes. Section 3, not a lot of people know about it just because it wasn't part of like the instructional purpose of 101. But section 3 is like, if I could dump my mind onto a piece of paper, that's what it is. So
Yeah, yeah, no, this looks really good. I also want to thank you for solving the bank selection 3 from 10 thing. I set it up yesterday and it's working perfectly. So yeah,
cool.
thank you.
You're very welcome. I like solving new problems like that.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, it selects a different 3 every time you click on it.
Cool. So do you have any questions for me while you've got me all to yourself?
I don't think so. I think we were okay in terms of the technical aspects of putting it in. I think, yeah, I think we haven't got any problems at the moment.
Okay, cool. Well then, I'm just going to text Ahmad and Melissa and let them know that they can do the collaboration talk.
Okay, yep, thanks.
And we wanted to like I said, yesterday we talked about our proposal to NSF or our project and which program that we submit to and our research questions. We also talked about how we can support you with any of your future efforts to the best of our abilities, of course. And there are some generic stuff that we can help with, but other collaboration opportunities, of course, will be based on case by case and what we can do and what you really are interested in. But we thought today that maybe we can have an open discussion and we can start by asking you about your interests in collaboration. What some of you wrote that as a topic of interest, so we just wanted to hear from you if you have any specific ideas or what kind of collaboration you're looking for, collaboration with us, maybe collaboration between the fellows, that we don't have to be part of, but we're happy to kind of make these connections. So I'll just open the floor for any of you who have thoughts on collaboration in general, now or in the future with how to learn or with proposals or just any of the above.
Maybe I can start. So, one element that's unfortunately a bit missing in having the Zoom format for this is that we can casually get together and, exchange ideas, get to know each other a little bit more. So I was wondering if there could be an element in one of these post-workshop meetings where that could happen. There are sort of tools out there similar to Zoom where you basically are in a big room and you can choose the person to talk to. You can form basically a little chat group, and you could just a little casually get to know each other a little bit more, find common interests and so on, and strengthen that relationship a little bit, just an hour. We do this, we have done this during COVID at our institution. We, the TGIF on Fridays, where basically we had multiple rooms available as a photograph in the background, and you pick one of those rooms and you see who's there. And then you just approach on the screen another person and you are suddenly in a breakout group together and you can just chat. It's still not the same, but I am missing that element of a workshop, right? Having a connection along those lines. And I'm sure we'll discover a lot of overlap in our interest, and that would strengthen that relationship within this team. Anyway, so that was.
I wonder, but basically what you're saying is that there are other technological solutions that make it easier. So if we're able to figure it out, and we set one of those up for half an hour before the last session of the day, is that something we should try? Throwing it out as an idea, not even knowing. And if you, Martin, have a good idea of one of these technology things that actually works well, it'd be risky because none of us have familiarity with it.
Mm-hmm. I can only, I need to look it up what it was called, but it was very, very easy to use. It didn't take me any time to get into it. The person who sets it up might have to have a little bit more of a skill. And there is more than one of these tools out there. There's actually a poster session that's done that way next week that they're using a different tool that I don't know. So maybe I can wait until then and see how that one works.
It might be more effective to do it either before or after one of our Twitter sessions, to give us time to figure it out. Two ideas come to mind slightly related to that. Right now, Quasi has a workshop. The Quasi Biennial Colloquium is virtual. It's ongoing right now. And they have some sort of a mixer at the end of the day. So they're using some sort of a tool. I haven't gone to any of that. So I'm not sure how it works, but that is happening. And we heard right at the beginning of this workshop from Beverly Wemple, who's the chair of the Quasi Education and Outreach Committee. This might be another forum for people from this group to collaborate in a sort of a structured way. I know Emma's on that committee. I just looked at the list of names, and Tao Wen, who's one of the fellows, but not in here right now is on that committee. So there's already an organization and a committee that's got some sort of a charge for advancing education and outreach in the community.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and I think Beverly would welcome further discussions or collaboration with this group. I actually recommended some names from the previous fellows when they were looking for new members on that committee, and they apparently picked one or two, I believe, from the group. So yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Do we all go to, going along with what Martin was saying, is there a joint a conference that we in person coming up soon? I know AGU, if things are in person, we can try to set up a session, a meeting there, we can get together or something like that.
I think AGU is hybrid. It's both in person and online. So it's in New Orleans, so probably it's coming up soon. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So we can try to arrange a meeting there or something, right? So the idea here is to have more opportunities to continue the connection, right, and the discussions and know each other more. Okay, so that's one. Any other thoughts on this collaboration?
I'm more interested in STEM outreach or STEM education outreach to the international audience, especially through USAID programs, or even some of the NSF. IRES is their international research experience for students, but that is mostly from the perspective of the US students, how they're getting the knowledge from when they go out. But at the same time, it should be mutually. It should be to the country where they're going and also how much they're learning. If we can reach out through some of these grants to the countries where they do not have much of this teaching facilities through these modules, and by providing some of the software and training, it will be great. And some of those proposals will be interesting. I'm not sure what is the experience you have with the international education outreach or anything like that.
Yeah, and maybe Melissa can also comment on that. I know she has a lot international experience in general, but I personally, I also thought that there could be a value of making that bridge, not only for the international folks to learn from what we did, but also for us here in the US also to learn from these experiences abroad, definitely. The challenge is the funding source, especially if you want to provide funding for the international collaborators. I guess USAID is one of them. You may be familiar with other sources. I know FIU does allow work in international, I think, if I understand correctly. I know David in Utah State, there's a group that got a big grant with Egypt through the USAID program, if I'm not mistaken. But that was a very specific, targeted RFP that is not available for every country. But there are opportunities, and I personally would, of course, depending on the circumstances, I would, try to support. If you write a proposal to any of these agencies, I'll support you by collaborating or just providing, whatever help I can. This time we opened the participation from international faculty. So, and I think that I think there'll be some great outputs from those. So the idea is really definitely worth pursuing. Melissa or David, feel free to add, or any other on the call.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find a link about the Egypt project. I wasn't involved in it, so I don't exactly know how it came about, but people found out about some USAID opportunity for joint training with Egypt, and wrote a proposal and got a project going.
Right. It was for like a center of excellence in Egypt, so it was targeted for that country. But I know many other countries in Africa and probably Asia will have probably something similar that's funded by, one way or another.
I also want to tell at FIU we have this facility called as COIL, Collaborative Online Interactive Learning, where we can actually partner with another foreign university. The faculty from there and the faculty from FIU can develop a module and they can actually teach the course online. And so that will be one way to show to the funding agency that it is sustainable by the institutional support. So we have that mechanism with different countries. So probably that is one way also, apart from the USAID, if the institutions can support, and also if there's NSF funding, we can also go with some of those things.
Yes.
So I just put the news release of the Egypt project. But
I see others join the. David, you're going to say something?
But I guess so. If you want to, if anybody wants to follow up with those people, I'd be happy to sort of make introductions.
And for those who joined the call, joined the session, we have an open discussion about collaboration in general. So feel free to chime in if you have specific ideas on how we can collaborate. So far, we talked about two things. One is how do we, increase the connectivity between all of us, maybe through some follow-up meetings or also meetings in upcoming conferences like AGU. If some of us go to those, we can just try to meet each other. And also we talked about some international collaboration and how if there are like RFPs that can support international participation by using these modules or developing new ones from international learning experiences. But so feel free if you have any ideas about collaboration in general, whether it's with us as HydroLearn or just as a group altogether.
So for example, at UTSA and at Clemson, I remember there were these international programs. So students go to another country for about a semester, they take courses there, they learn and then come back. But these were typically done through endowments. Do you know any, for example, programs that would support that?
I mean, for US students to go there in these countries?
Exactly, maybe more structured form, take them there and then get some experience and come back.
I know, and I think, Mauriti, you mentioned that. I think there's an NSF program called ires.
IRES, International Research Experience for Students.
Right. I don't know if you heard of that, Frat, or not, but I think it's an active program.
I haven't.
Yeah, okay. IRES. Is that for grad students, Mauriti, primarily, or for undergrads also?
It's for undergrad and grad both.
Okay.
There are two types. One is a site, so you can actually take them to your site, and then the students will do the research at that particular site, learn. The other one is you are actually getting a training. So if you find a more developed country where the students can gain experience by working in a particular as an intern in one of the labs, so that is like where they're gaining the experience. The other one is like a site type. So two different types.
But is there a possibility, like, for example, taking, let's say, 3-4 courses a semester in one of the countries and then come back? Would there be some program for that, or is it just for research purposes?
No, it's NSF, so you can do the teaching and research. The only problem with this is the country who is hosting will not be getting any money from NSF because it's NSF funding.
Right.
So that's the difficult part there.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay.
But it kind of sounds like you're talking about a study abroad course, Virat. Are you talking about like creating a course where you would take students using your connections to another university that you are aware of, or?
Yeah, but this is mostly like a 10-week program. Instead of like an entire semester, you are there for like 10 weeks in the summer. They will be also having some kind of like a research component there to claim as a project.
Right. I mean, the way that we do at UTSA is we take the students for 1 semester to Italy, and then they take I think 2 courses from our faculty, 2 courses from faculty in Italy. So there is this collaboration there. So these courses are counted towards their curricula. This way, I mean, they don't lose any time, but they also get exposure to different types of teaching, different environment, and also get the study abroad benefits of working with different, engineers and in a different language, etc.
So I know at the universities I've been at the past, they usually have a global experiences office or global education office, and you can design your own. So if you wanted to do something different and you had connections, I know that my universities in the past have helped me to, I never actually went through with it, but had the meetings and learned about it.
Right. I mean, these are very, let's say, time intense efforts, I guess.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's why I think it's difficult to follow
So
up
you're
always.
looking for other things that already exist that you don't have to build.
Exactly.
I mean, in the UT system, I imagine that any of the other UTs that had a program like that, your students could do and take the course and get credit. Although UTSA might not want to share the money with UTA or.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know about, I guess we are the small fish there. So I think it's probably, but I think there are some programs they are trying to establish, we are trying to establish with Mexico. So some universities, but they are more on the graduate level. So I think the focus is towards for undergraduate, maybe for some reason, Italy, I guess it's also appealing for the students in terms of architecturally, because some of our architectural students also goes there. So there is such an effort there. But, the thing is, I don't know how to put it in a, for example, if it's an NSF project, how to make it unique or so compelling for them, because this is somewhat, done in a different form and typically done through endowments, in different universities. So that's why I'm not sure how to frame it that would make it exciting for NSF.
Well, I think NSF, you'll have to respond to a specific program they have, Firat. So the one that I know is the IRIS. I put the link in the chat box here. Okay, check it out. It might supplement what you're trying to do. It might be a parallel effort to it. I don't think you can. Again, you have to respond to that particular proposal. And I knew colleagues who got it, and it's a lot of fun. It's work, but it's a lot of fun. They take a group of students and they go to another country and they do research there. That's kind of the summary, the gist of it, I think.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Thinking about being in San Antonio too, one of the things I love about being in Texas is we have a very large Hispanic and African-American populations. And those groups are really underrepresented in STEM. So I think if you were to bring like a really early kind of intro course where you might have more students, more Hispanic students and took them to Mexico or Argentina, I don't know, somewhere, worked with other engineers so they could see people who look like them, who speak their same first language, kind of interacting in those spaces, that might be really compelling to NSF too.
In the same lines, I put a link in the chat, which is of the NSF includes. I think this is the recent call. They are trying to talk about the outreach for HBCUs and HSIs.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, guys.
There's also other maybe more creative places we should think about going to for funding. And I don't have any experience with this. I'm just throwing out ideas. But one is maybe edX itself, which is the platform and organization that we have built on. And I just got an email, which I know is circulated with Emad and Melissa and maybe some others. But edX was developed by Harvard and MIT. And recently they sort of sold it for a large amount of money, $800 million, to a public benefit company. And this is sort of advancing the open edX nonprofit type goals. So with I mean, with that sort of a money, if we could just get a small percentage of that, that'd be great. So we got to figure out a way to sort of get into that and look at what these big companies that are working in the sort of education space are actually doing, and if they have any programs, or whether we could talk them into having any programs that that might help us. So that's one idea. And then the other idea is to sort of look for the sort of benevolent foundations that may be interested in advancing education, perhaps anywhere, perhaps in the third world, but also perhaps in the US, perhaps in the water area, addressing the problems of droughts, which are really big in the Western US right now, floods and climate change, which are just rearing their head in Europe right now. So, and not only Europe, China as well. So thinking about how to find people who've got money who want to make an impact. But that's just a whole different world that involves developing contacts, developing trust, showing that you can actually make a difference.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I need to check out that. When you sent it, it was like, wow, it's big, right? And yeah, there's a lot of money invested there, so which is good, and but like I said, it's more than what we've been talking about here. Okay. So Harun and Ian, I see you joined also. Feel free to chime in with any thoughts or ideas on collaboration in general.
Yeah.
I was just going to say I would be really keen to explore the opportunities between the UK and the US in terms of expanding HydroLearn and so on. One of the interesting things that I came across with Josh, my partner, was the different ways in which we assess work in different countries. So like our first class boundary would be 70%. And we would hardly ever give like 80+ marks to many students at all, when like that's not the same in the US system. So thinking about how we can increase the adoption of these kind of courses across the globe, maybe surveying what the different assessment methods are in different countries, and seeing how we can meet the needs of kind of more countries to increase the adoption.
Yeah, that's an interesting research question right there, I guess. And I think NSF probably would also enjoy studying things like that along a proposal that talks about evaluation assessment of student learning, because my background also, I got most of my education, at least undergrad, not in the US. And you're right. I mean, this A is really, is very valuable. Not, it's not easy to get, what does that really mean for the learning experience of the student and the expectation and all that is definitely interesting.
I mean, to throw another model into the mix, I come from the German education system, and we didn't have grades at all.
Oh, wow.
Yep, you will all expect to know where you were standing. I mean, you got feedback on homework and problem sets and so on, but you either passed the course or not. It was a pass-fail system. So I was never, ever stressed out in my whole life as a student, which is a fantastic feeling. And I feel like I learned as much as others that are constantly under this pressure to reach some grade, So it's a completely different approach, but also cool. It doesn't work for everybody.
There's a movement towards that in K-12 education right now in the US. It's called standards-based grading. And so the idea is that it's still grading, but on each a learning objective, you get kind of a score. So you know where you stand on each learning objective rather than a course as a whole.
Melissa, is that more for the K through 12, or is it also making its way to the higher ed?
Oh, it's definitely making its way into higher ed. I was actually thinking of doing it with my students this semester. In the higher ed, a lot of people are calling it ungrading, and they are giving the students the learning objectives at the beginning and end of the semester and asking them to assess their own growth and justify how much, like where they stand on the learning objectives. I feel too much safety in the current grading system, and so I'm not sure if I'm going to take the leap to ungrading, but there is a movement. There are people on Twitter too talking about ungrading in college courses. But in some K-12 districts, it's being mandated, the switch to standards-based grading.
Again, I'm not expert in the field, but I think NSF, the same program I use, and maybe other programs as well, have tracks that focus on assessment methods and evaluation. And it looks like there are some research questions right there on this issue.
And actually, to follow up on David's comment about edX, I was wondering if, for example, is there any applications of edX like I mean, I can see that edX can be easily used to write a textbook. I mean, kind of a textbook, an open access free textbook with videos and schematics and so on. And this will be freely available to different, to students at different geographic locations, etc. I don't know if this was an idea that was tried or considered, or would you think that that might be interesting?
I don't know of it having been tried, which doesn't mean it hasn't. It just means I don't know it. And it certainly seems interesting.
By the way, the link that David put in the chat here is a link to a newsletter that NSF puts out, the Department of Division of Undergraduate Education. They include all announcements, upcoming proposals, and just news in general. So if you want to stay up to date on opportunities and different programs that NSF supports, this is a good place to subscribe. We published last year a news item about the workshop, so we may do it again this year if you want, so you may find your name there or your picture sometime.
I was thinking about another idea that I would like to float. So you guys have now experience with the edX and you have implemented it. And of course, you have at the back end, you have some hypothesis driven questions that you propose to NSF that you're going to answer through this proposal. So with this skill set and this experience, have you considered going outside hydrology and taking these ideas to other subdisciplines of civil engineering and collaborating with other sub areas, for example, including transportation? Some of these, I understand not all of the subdisciplines would qualify for online module style lessons, but there are, for example, in environmental engineering, some of this work could be ported. Transportation engineering has a lot of simulation-based work. So what are your thoughts about having that sort of collaboration outside hydrology? And the second one was, with this layer being in place, there are a couple of low-hanging fruits that could be taking this to outside undergraduate education. Of course, that will take you outside from the IU's program, but that also opens up using this platform for modules for, let's say, high school students, or even lower classes, having derived from these modules, smaller level modules that could be more appropriate for younger students. And the other one was another layer. Now that you have this rich set of modules, how to take these modules, rank them, and start putting them into mega or larger level groups to create maybe online courses, full courses with these modules as a sequence of storyboard that they have to follow to maybe get a certificate. So I threw a bunch of ideas there because I just was thinking, but we can discuss one at a time. So the first one was, going to other subdisciplines. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, Arun, these are all great ideas. So yeah, I don't have any immediate reaction to the other subdisciplines.
Well, I guess for those of us in civil and environmental engineering, I think it becomes natural to go into things like transportation. We've sort of already been interpreting the hydro in HydroLearn pretty broadly in terms of getting into ecology, getting into hydraulics, getting into some of the other topics. And I think that's good. And there's a sort of a natural, we've struggled a little bit with where we should sort of draw the boundaries and whether we should draw the boundaries. But certainly thinking about the generic, getting into transportation structures would be natural for civil and environmental engineering. Getting, if you're in a College of Natural Resources, maybe getting into natural resources management, forest management could be other things that relate quite well, quite quickly.
Right.
And then what are your thoughts about the going to other levels of education, maybe K through 12 level, or graduate is already covered, but K through 12?
So Harun, before I leave the previous point, again, if you have ideas or if you want to pursue other parallel fields, we'll be happy to, again, to the best of our abilities to, I mean, what HydroLearn produced really is some technology that can be used for different disciplines, definitely. And also the kind of this training material and, curriculum on how to develop curriculum, I guess, that also can be applicable to if you want to develop learning modules in transportation. Well, the same principles of engaging content apply. So, all of that is available through HydroLearn, and I think that's something we want to see that it benefited other parallel subjects. So, just want to kind of say that and be happy to talk more about it. For for other levels, and maybe I'll let Melissa to chime in on this. I mean, she does a lot with K through 12, but one of our colleagues, Doug Williams, unfortunately he could not join this morning. He has a situation that he had to take care of, but he just, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he actually kind of took this concept, and I think he was able to, or in process of getting another grant from NSF also that focuses on K through 12. So the same idea of modules, and I don't think he took any of our modules and simplified them or anything like that, but that same setup of developing online engaging modules and teaching training faculty on how to use it. So maybe if he joins us later, he can talk about it more. But I don't do a whole lot in K through 12, to be honest with you. And maybe Melissa can talk about it if she has ideas.
Yeah, so it certainly is an interesting idea. Yeah, I just haven't thought about it that much. I think in the last year, teachers were just really scrambling to get things up and online, as we all were, right? So, but they had to do it for 6 hours a day of class for 5 days a week. So, yeah, I think that it would definitely have applications. I don't know though. I also think that everyone just wants to be back to in-person learning, and I think we almost will see like a sharp turn away from the online learning in K-12 for a year or two before people come back to it, but I'm not sure.
I see your point, but I was not. I was more thinking of that these modules could be used for in-class learning as well, which I will be doing, by the way. I mean, even though it's face-to-face learning, these modules could be used in in-class setting as well. So, one of the things that, yeah. So what the thing I was thinking out loud, I'm thinking out loud right now is similar kind of workshop, but we have somebody from engineering or hydrology, but then also have a teacher from K through 12 as a partner, and then they develop together something that would be more appropriate for students at high school level or elementary school level, and there might be something already out there. I haven't looked at what's already out there, but that's how I was thinking that we could take it to them.
Yeah, actually, that's a really interesting idea. I hadn't thought about it that way. Thank you for reframing that, Harun. Actually, I'd love to get Josh and Ian working with some elementary teachers on the water cycle to help them more fully understand it, because I definitely taught it poorly.
And I can see right there a proposal idea. I mean, seriously, right? I mean, just that what you guys talked about now, that is definitely NSF loves to build on what has been funded already. So if you tell them that we did this and this and this and HydroLearn or other projects that you worked on, and we have these fellows who already did this and that, and we have Melissa, maybe David, Doug, I'm again, I'm not volunteering anybody, but there's work has been done and there's curriculum that has been developed, and there's our cycle. You're right, Melissa. I mean, how can you take that and improve how we teach it to that K through 12 so they don't hate the subject, or they get disengaged sometimes when they teach these concepts in a very non-engaging way. And the opposite is true. Some of them really get sold on the subject and become excited about it if the teaching material is more engaging and more meaningful. I threw David's name out there, so I know he would be thrilled to participate. No.
There's only 24 hours in a day,
right?
And you have to sleep some of them,
right? But that's the beauty also
about that. I'm really interested in everything.
I know, yeah. But that's the beauty of this kind of platform, because people can branch out based on their interests, their time availability, and so forth. So yeah.
I had one more idea that I will stop to give anybody else a chance. So the other one was that, of course, again, HydroLearn platform is there, and then based on David's presentation, I was really thrilled by all of this overlap between HydroShare, Jupyter Lab, Colab from Google, as well as I did not know that at all, was that MATLAB online was plugged into HydroShare as well. So bringing in some people from AI, machine learning area, and help them collaborate with hydrology faculty to build labs that are going to take advantage of these AI technologies applied to hydrology. So that might be something that NSF might be intrigued about, overlapping faculty from computer science and hydrology.
Yeah, I think I seem to have seen there's a huge number of AI research opportunities that are coming out of NSF under the sort of banner of the Harnessing the Data Revolution, which is one of their 10 big ideas.
Right.
I seem to have, there might have been something come out about education with AI. I don't remember exactly what it was, but in amongst the fire hose of AI announcements from NSF, there might be an education one that you could find. Or just if you want to get into that in a research context, that's also fine.
Again, the IU's program is very broad, is really broad. You can tell from the topic improving undergraduate STEM education. That's very broad. And I think again, this is another idea that I see it fitting right away, because you're trying to prepare the next generation, workforce for these kind of advances in research AI. And if NSF is investing in it, like David said, one of the 10 big ideas, there's a perfect fit there.
So if I come across an opportunity where I can develop a proposal, how do I engage with the current HydroLearn team, and what are the processes to take advantage of the existing HydroLearn platform to build the next proposal?
Yeah, I mean, without volunteering anybody from our team, really, I mean, I personally, again, it's going to be dependent on the situation and what is exactly there and so forth. But I would personally be willing to help, right? Whatever that really means, in the broad sense. I would love to see HydroLearn support other efforts and branching. And if this project if we finish this funding next year, and if there's further development to support your idea, we can partner on the proposal. Yeah, I mean, I guess the answer is we are interested to see, or I'm personally interested to see HydroLearn continue to support these efforts, and we'll be happy to talk with you with the details. It really depends on what you really need from HydroLearn, I guess, right? Some stuff is as simple as I'll develop a module and post it in HydroLearn, and I can write a letter saying, we'll support Haroon deploying that in HydroLearn. Or if you need more functionality on the AI, okay, there's maybe some IT development, maybe there's some programming, maybe there's some assessment, so at that time we can also think about it.
And I understand there are different levels of engagement, and my thought at this point is it's not just using HydroLearn, because that's we are already doing that, but beyond that, because
exactly.
You guys have the skill set of an experience of running workshops where people are brought together, and there are certain things that we talk about. So I think it's more than that. And from HydroLearn perspective, I also understand that you have a sustainability plan, right? So you have to keep it alive, and beyond the life of the project, there must be ways to keep I don't know what the costs are, but I'm pretty sure that somebody has to maintain it. Their salaries have to be taken care of. So these could be good spin-off projects that could keep feeding into whatever is needed to keep HydroLearn alive beyond the life of the project that you guys are part of.
Exactly. And we do also, as a team, we need to, we don't have the full answers on the sustainability issues and so forth. So we'll be working on those. But yes, I agree to all what you said, Haroon. And I really tend to like to think about HydroLearn more being at the platform. It's the knowledge that was generated, it's the community. Like you said, also this knowledge on running this workshop, it's a lot of effort. I speak to the efforts of everybody from our team. Melissa and David are here, and Jenny and everybody. It's a lot of work, and also it's experience. It's just how to do it and what's the most effective way, and teaching material, and that by itself, I think, is a product.
So is there, for example, after hearing those, I was wondering, one of the challenges last year, I think we felt is, at least I felt, for a person who is teaching lab courses, right? So I was teaching fluid mechanics and labs, and suddenly everything is online and there is no hands-on labs, and it was a challenge for arranging the labs and so on. Do you think that HydroLearn, I don't know, maybe there are modules that incorporate some lab components or labs specifically for some, let's say, hydrology labs or fluid mechanics labs? Or is there a way to make it very interactive? Yes, it will not be hands-on, but maybe with some gaming, motors, etc., to make the students, some modules really specifically designed to give as real experience as possible about, let's say, fluid mechanics labs or hydrology labs.
Yeah. I think last year we received applications for folks to develop field experiences, not only lab.
Okay.
And those, of course, are very valuable. And I think there was also some discussion in Quasi, if I'm not mistaken, about doing exactly what you said, Firat. I think those are pretty innovative. I mean, they will take some innovative approaches, and don't think this is something that, I mean, it's really very targeted and very specific. There's a lot of gaming applications, like you said, and there might be already some resources out there. But again, I keep coming back to NSF because I've seen a lot of proposals that propose things like that and they get funded. And, you know, there's quite a bit of material out there. The challenge, again, some of this technology looks cool and looks nice, but after a year or two, unless you really were able to keep it updated, it kind of becomes obsolete very quickly.
Exactly. I mean, it may also require some, you know, let's say if somebody wants to go to with virtual reality, you know, perspective, etc. So that may also, you know, include some equipment or tools for the students to purchase, which is very unpractical. Especially, I think this may address people, let's say during this, such as the pandemic environment, people could not, you know, meet face to face. But also there are universities that don't have the required laboratory facility due to costs and other reasons. So it will serve some need, but I don't know. Again, I agree with you. I mean, I don't know how expensive it will be to maintain that, or is it possible to make it once a good system that works for 10 years? I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of developments in NSF in early years, maybe early 2010 or something, on virtual reality. There was a lot of projects funded from NSF on developing curriculum based on virtual reality. I'm not sure what's the recent now, but and NSF funds things that can be done at one institution, by the way, right? You don't have to make this kind of, you know, it can be done anywhere. For instance, they do fund curriculum development around some innovative ideas for one institution where you can just work with your own students. But that's okay.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about just communication in the future? You know, we are not the first cohort of your program. Which one are we actually? Are we number 3 or 4? Or how many? 3? So what has been the experience with the previous groups? Have they been in touch with each other overall? Or, you know, was there some follow-up that was sort of more long-term, or did that all kind of peter out? And my second question related to this is there going to be sort of a list server or some way to share information among, you know, all 3 cohorts in the future? You know, if you have a question, can you ask? You know, also if you need support, you know, with Kuasi from the community, you know, this should be something that they should take over. You know, having lots of names and letters of support and so on might help, and this network might support this. So are there any plans along those lines, and what's the experience you have had with the previous 2 cohorts?
Well, you give us some good food for thoughts.
Okay.
And these are all really good ideas. I would say that we have not done, I mean, you know, we started this with the idea of having a workshop in person where we meet and we do this everything in person. And I think the funding that we had would have been enough for 1 workshop, for example, right? Now we did virtually, so that saved us quite a bit of money for the, I know I'm not answering your question, but I guess I'm trying to give you kind of how we evolved into this couple of workshops, multiple workshops. So we really have not done quite a bit of what you talked about now, right? And you know, maybe that's something we need to invest in the next phase or this last year of the project, to create that sustainable communication platform, whether it's through a newsletter or some sort of another. So, but I think these are really good things to think about, you know, how to translate it into a sustainable community beyond hardware too, like connecting with Quasi, right? I mean, I try to keep Quasi engaged as much as we can, and you know, maybe we can just share the list of fellows with them and have them somehow add them to their communication media outlets. So again, thank you for the thoughts. I mean, I'll definitely be giving it more thinking. Dave or Melissa, feel free to add.
Well, I mean, I would just fill in a little bit of the details of. So we had the first cohort of fellows. We didn't actually have a workshop. We had fellows apply and we selected them, and the idea was over a period of a year with sort of weekly, I mean not weekly, but periodic interactions, the modules were developed. That was a sort of a difficult process to sort of sustain and maintain the connections, because people were working sort of independently, and the fellows did not have any responsibility of partnering with any other fellows. They just had to develop a module. Then we decided with the second round that we would actually have a hackathon, and we were going to have it in person for a week in Park City. COVID hit, so we made it virtual, but that's when we decided to sort of work in pairs to provide the feedback. And I think that was an important sort of element. And that sort of led to the second group of modules. And then this group is the sort of third, the third group, and you've sort of seen how it's gone. So yeah, I think setting up a listserv would be great. Trying to sort of continue to maintain the connections between people. I mean, some of the fellows from the earlier workshops have become sort of engaged here. So Belize was one of the people who developed early modules, and now we've got her helping with the team. And there may be some others that I'm overlooking.
One of the fellows, like I said, you know, he ended up joining the Outreach Education Committee on Quasi. So that's another example of how things kind of branch out a little bit.
Yeah, I think we mostly keep in touch by email, Martin, with people kind of reaching out to us as the team. But yeah, I think that we would be open to other ways of thinking about it. I think last year it was a quick pivot because of the pandemic, of course. And then this year we just kind of kept doing things. We made some improvements, but kept a lot of things the same. So I think that if you have other ideas for how to kind of keep us networked, and I really like the idea of staying networked across all three groups of cohorts, fellows. But though, I mean, a thing I can think of is like a Slack, but I think it's a little late to start a Slack for those groups. So I don't know if there are other tech solutions or ideas you have for keeping that network. We could create a listserv too.
So it depends on our generation. I guess Melissa's young enough to fall back on Slack. I'm old enough that listserv is my go-to.
Yeah, and we do have a Twitter account, but again, it depends on who.
You have to be even younger for that.
Yes, yeah, yes. Now Snapchat is even right. So
Instagram.
What's that?
Instagram.
That's even older. No, that's
not too old. Okay,
getting older now. Snapchat is so. I think that's the challenge too. Is that technology or these platforms are ever changing, and not everybody has Twitter. Not everybody is on Facebook. Not everybody on LinkedIn. But yeah.
But maybe we should, I think we as a team should commit to following up, and either we could just set up one communication thing, or we could do a poll, and based on the poll, choose either something like a Facebook group, a Twitter, well, just sort of get everybody connected to some sort of a Twitter organization, or a listserv, and see what people actually want.
Right.
I don't know, from the people that we got here, is there sort of a preference for technology? Sample of 4. Nobody's going to offer a preference.
It's generational, right? So I'm with you, David. So I would prefer the listserv, I guess, because I am not a Facebook person, not a Twitter person. But I think the idea of the poll is not bad. And also you will see if there's any interest in doing this at all in the first place, right?
Right. So one of the poll options should be don't bother me anymore.
And that's okay too. I think
That's okay too. Yeah.
everybody's entitled for that. After the workshop, the week and a half workshop, I'm sure quite a few guys want to say, leave us alone for now. So how are we doing on the time? It's sharp 12 noon. So wow, it's amazing how we running the workshop, man. The discussion ended right at top of the clock.
Yeah, so I think we're happy to stay and chat if you have other things about collaboration, but it does feel like the conversation kind of came to a natural wrap up. So if you want to head back to your rooms or go back to working, that's cool. Or if you want to stay here and chat, I'm sure we'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Harun. Keep up those good ideas. Write them down before you forget.
Thanks. I'll be in touch.
Sure. Yes.
Melissa, would you like the honors?
Sure. All right. So, oh, I thought I had turned my video on. I apologize. Welcome back. I hope everyone had a wonderful working session. I know people have been building out their modules. I love jumping into Studio and seeing kind of more and more stuff be populated in those, in your units and in your modules. So awesome. Thank you. All right. So Martin brought up a good point when we were in the collaboration breakout room about how we could all keep in touch as a unit rather than just, of course, you're always welcome to email us at your individual content, education and tech guides, but also Martin brought up the really good point about how we can all kind of stay in contact with one another. And so we wanted to do a poll everywhere to kind of check in about what your preference would be for how we would keep in touch. As we were brainstorming in the, Jenny, will you put that link in the chat, please? As we were brainstorming in the collaboration room, there seemed to be a generational gap in the preferred method of communication between, you know, maybe a listserv versus a Slack group. So, and no one will be offended either if you vote to not be contacted. That is also, of course, an option. And you should be able to vote for more than once. I mean, you should be able to vote for more than one of these options. So Jenny will put the link in the chat for you, and you can go ahead and vote for your preferred way for us to keep in touch with you.
It says the poll is full.
The poll is full. Jenny, can you unlock it?
Oh, I can't unlock it.
Do you
But
have
I didn't lock it.
Do you have audience restriction? You may have just like a certain number of responses.
Yeah, it says the poll has received the maximum number of responses allowed. And I didn't vote. Yeah, so it's not just me. Maybe the most important person already voted and that we decided that was it. There we go.
Yes, there does seem to be an overarching majority here. Yes, we certainly have exceeded the 50% with the listserv. So if you were unable to vote for some reason, if those are still locked out to you, feel free. If you want listserv, then I think your vote maybe is counted. But if you have a dissenting vote, if we get a lot of those, then maybe we can rerun the vote. But it's looking like a listserv is probably going to be our style of communication. All right, thanks, Jenny. All right, so before we wrap up to go into content rooms, we just wanted to say that we are so excited to have spent these last 8 days with you. We've really enjoyed it. And we're really excited about kind of your work and all the things that you all have created. So thank you so much for sharing this time with us. Before we head out to our groups, does anyone want to say anything or feel free to unmute and say hi.
Well, I can say thank you to all the HydroLearn team. It was a very educational experience, and I look forward to working with you more.
Thanks so much, Arun. We look forward to working with you too.
I want to echo that, it has been a wonderful experience. I think we all learned so much, and it was hard work for us, but I imagine it was even harder work for the team because you were responsible and you did probably a lot of work in odd hours, to make sure that the next day was working fine. So thank you so much. It was really a wonderful experience.
Thanks, Martin. We really appreciate that. Lots of fun shout outs coming up in the chat. All right, so we are going to go into the content rooms for breakouts here in just a minute. And so, however, Imad had to take his wife to the airport. It seems like he might be in trouble if he opted to not do that. And Valise is in the field.
I'm listening. So.
Oh, you're listening. Oh, that's great, Imad. I thought you were. So you're not with your wife?
I just dropped her, so I'm driving back. So sorry, I'm calling from the phone. And I'll try to join the rooms as I drive, as safe as I can. But before we do that, Melissa, I just want to thank all the fellows. I know it has been a hard and difficult and busy 9 days for all of you. And thank you for your commitment and patience. And also, I thank the team. Everybody's on the call. I know Dan is not with us, and I'm not sure about Belize, but Dave, thank you so much, and Melissa and Jenny especially. You guys have been great. This would have not been possible without the two of you.
Well, thanks, Imad, and we should echo the words of Click and Clack, who used to be on the radio, and say, hang up and drive. You've had enough car adventures already for this week.
That is true, David. That is true. Thank you, though. Yeah.
But we appreciate all you've done.
Thank you.
So as we head out to the content groups, I'll facilitate Belisa's group, and Jenny will join Imad's group just to kind of facilitate the conversation, but you all know how to give each other feedback as well. Kind of same story, different day. All right, Jenny, are those rooms open for us?
In 2 seconds.
All right.
There's some people I still need to assign. All right, Dave, you've been assigned to your room. And Anne, let me make sure got you in the right room. I do. Okay.
Help as we can.